From the city lights to the country blue, Woody and Lou got the sports for you. From Boston streets to Kentucky's fields, get ready, folks, for the thrill it yields. Woody and Lou, sports and you, talking games, we love it's true. Every play, every score, let's dive in, it's time for more. Lacing up the boots and calling plays, debates and laughs for all the days. From Fenway Park to Derby Run, sports talk magic just begun. Woody, Lou, sports and you, sideline stories coming through. Every cheer, heartbeat soar, tune in now, we'll give you more. Celtics screams to Wildcats roar, touchdowns, goals, and so much more. Grab a seat, enjoy the ride, Woody, Lou, right by your side.
The views expressed by the hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Department of Defense, the U.S. government, or any of its agencies. The information provided is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. No attorney-client relationship is formed by providing this information, and nothing herein should be relied upon as legal counsel. For legal advice specific to your situation, please consult a qualified attorney. Braxton, episode 42, Woody, Lou, Sports and You. Happy Sunday night, everyone. How are you, Braxton?
Beautiful day here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We had a great day getting to see one of my close childhood friends, Hayden and his family, at a distillery today in Shelbyville, Kentucky. So it's been a good Sunday. How's yours, Dan?
Yeah, I had a great Sunday. I went for a nice bike ride. I had a pizza at Tailgate Brewery in Germantown, and just getting ready for the week.
It's going to be a great week. I know I've been watching the morning news since I haven't had organized PT to go to. So I've been getting the 5 a.m., 6 a.m. news in. And I know there's a cold front coming into our neck of the woods this week. So some highs in the low 80s, some mornings as low as 58. So I'm pretty excited for this beautiful week ahead.
Yeah, getting into fall weather, and I like how Woody, Lou, Sports and You has now become a weekly weather forecast with Braxton. So that's a nice development for our ever-evolving show. But Braxton, I had an even better Saturday, and the reason for that is today's show's title, Delivrd Delivers. I got my brand new 2026 Ford Maverick all-wheel drive hybrid. I picked it up yesterday at Murfreesboro Ford.
Tommy McCullough and his team has delivered for Dan Woodhouse, and I'm so proud that you were able to ultimately go home with the new truck and the exact truck that you wanted. And I'm glad that I can say that I put you on to a service that you actually were satisfied with, and hopefully I can get a little finder's fee from Delivrd down the road one day.
I did tell my deal consultant about you and how you turned me on to Delivrd. And I'll be honest, when we first, the show when you were with your dad in Charleston, you were talking about Tommy McCullough, and I started listening to the YouTube recordings of his calls. I was like, man, this guy's like kind of annoying. And I didn't like it. Like, it just made me uncomfortable, like the confrontation, and he was kind of whiny. But after the experience with a Ford dealership that shall not be named in the Commonwealth, and how terrible of an experience that was, which we've recapped on this show, going with Delivrd, I could not endorse highly enough. It was worth every single penny, especially for someone whose time is valuable. And I don't have much time during the week to make calls to dealerships to negotiate, and then can only go in on the weekends unless I want to take time off. And they made it just like they say in their advertisements. It was totally painless, no anxiety. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And also big shout out to the people at Murfreesboro Ford.
Murfreesboro Ford. Murfreesboro is a good place. I've looked for several vehicles in Murfreesboro when I was stationed at Fort Campbell. Never ended up doing any business, but I can remember vividly, Dan, going to Murfreesboro Toyota and test driving a Tacoma. And Toyota would not budge, which by watching Tommy Delivrd, I have realized that Toyota is not a negotiating dealership. So that would have been good intel to have. So this is just a absolutely no advertisement like provided bump. Free press for Delivrd. They're great. Good videos.
And now I love consuming the content both on Spotify and YouTube. Again, just that experience with the unnamed dealership in the Commonwealth. I don't feel awkward or uncomfortable anymore with the confrontation that goes on during a negotiation. And the dealers, screw them.
Those rascals.
Yeah,
they're rascals, Dan.
But not the great people at Murfreesboro Ford. They were fantastic.
I'm glad you had a good experience. Have you been able to drive anywhere cool with your Maverick, or has it kind of just been sitting at the complex?
Yeah, I haven't really driven it too much. We'll get the first real drive tomorrow when I go to work up at Fort Campbell. But it is a smooth ride. And I love everything about that truck.
That's awesome, man. I'm really happy for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to come see you and for you to see my truck.
We're gonna take it around the block. I'm definitely gonna get behind that wheel. I'm insured, so hopefully you allow me that opportunity.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So quick pivot from Murfreesboro Ford and Woody's new Ford Maverick to current standings for Little League World Series that have major implications for the fantasy football draft. Braxton, you weren't super high on your wheel landing on the great team from Iowa. They're looking like juggernauts.
So I believe on air I was not overly ecstatic about my Midwestern draw. However, immediately following the show, I did a quick Google search of my boys, and I saw that they were under a slight investigation and were issued a warning from a Little League National, I suppose, for sign stealing. They were stealing every possible sign from second base and relaying it to their batter, which is illegal in Little League for no true good reason because it's a part of the game. And if you don't want people to steal your signs, make better signs. I don't care if you're 10, 11, 12. So that that had me juiced up. And then I was even more juiced up when I realized their first game was against California, which was Kaylee's team.
That was a good first round. We couldn't tell who's going to get what in the spinning wheel, but great first round matchup in the Lewis household.
And did I realize that Cooper Thiessen was going to go out there, strike out the side in the first, hit a leadoff home run, and then go on to have 15 strikeouts and hitless through 5 1/3, and then pass it off to AJ Jr. I like to call him, my boy Johnson Jr., little CC Sabathia kid. He gets to close the final 2 outs and California had bases loaded, full count, 2 outs. And he gets the backwards K on California, giving them their first loss. And Iowa followed it up with another performance today with my boy Anthony Johnson Jr. on the bump. He gives up 1 hit through, I believe it's 5 2/3. He also had 15 strikeouts. Him and Cooper tied for the most strikeouts. So those 2 kids, I don't know what our 3 deep is, but our 2 deep pitching is phenomenal. And he also had a 3-run shot in the top of the 6th for a much not really needed, but he gave himself some insurance, which you love to see. The pitcher help himself out. So I'm over the moon with Iowa, and we're sitting squarely tied for first, kind of second, given that Nicaragua has played 1 more game than us.
Yeah. I as far as the sign stealing goes, you don't need to steal signs when you're not giving up any runs like this Iowa team. So it's an absolute moot point. Yeah,
Giving up one hit through 12 innings.
Yeah, out of like a possible 36 strikeouts, like or outs, I guess 36 outs, they have 30 by way of the K. That's
Yes.
crazy. And I think that's the key to success in at least this tournament is you need two top end pitchers, and Iowa has them.
Yeah, I believe two deep is the key, and then have just guys who can at least get you some outs. And I've been watching a lot of Little League World Series, and it's the most Little League baseball I've watched in a long time, probably since I played Little League. And really, the secret here is, and I know Iowa is doing it by way of the K, but these kids can make plays in the infield and the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
What's killing teams are the walks, and
Yes.
just the free passes are really what is the kryptonite to these teams. So as long as you can either get the outs, or giving up hits is okay, because these kids are trying to double plays. You just can't give up the free passes. That's what gets teams into trouble.
Yeah, and that's the best. That's Little League baseball. I think why people love watching this tournament is because, the crazy mistakes happen where you're throwing the ball around or the pass ball with a runner on. I mean, they're kids, and that happens. But no, it's been super fun to watch and high stakes. So I have the current what the draft order is right now. Do you want to hear where we're at currently?
Give it to me.
Okay. So in the one spot, we have Kulu, Nicaragua. Yep, they're the first team to get 3 wins. They have 16 runs that they've scored for a +7 differential. They're looking stout. Then, as you said, Iowa, Lou is second. They have 7 runs scored, none against for a +7 differential. Then in third place, we have Bryce with the team that Iowa just beat 6-0. Jersey.
That's a good Jersey team, by the way. I got to add.
It is a good Jersey team. Yeah, they walked off my team, Commonwealth, Massachusetts, in their first game in the 9th. But they're now in the losers bracket. They have 2 wins. So they had to play an extra game. I didn't realize that. They
didn't get a bye.
So they're in the losers bracket 2-1-0, scored 5 runs for a -1 differential. The 6-0 to Iowa hurts. Next we have Mackenzie with Japan. And Japan surprising first round loss. That's right, to Curacao. They got shut out by Curacao, but then came back in dominating fashion over the Dominican Republic, beating them 10-1. So they have 10 runs scored for a +3 differential. Next is Mason with Canada. They're 500, 1 win, 1 loss. 4 runs scored for a -3 differential. Then next is Ty with Texas. We got a bunch of 1-1 teams now. So they have 3 runs scored for I didn't do that right. How do they have a +9 differential? I didn't calculate that correctly. Oops.
We're not a math podcast.
No, we are not a math.
Can we blame this on our shadow producer, ChatGPT, or is this?
No, this was purely manual inputs. Maybe I messed up here. Texas only have 1 loss, and then they play Ohio tomorrow.
Gavin's Ohio squad.
What's that?
Gavin's really high on his Ohio squad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I messed that up with Ty. I think Gavin's actually 6th. Gavin they're 1-1, 15 runs scored for a +9 differential. They did really well, and they beat Massachusetts 10-0. Then we have the Mad Hatter in his Panama hat. Panama is 1 loss. They play. When do they play? They play tomorrow against Canada. So against Mason. Then we have Miss Amy Lewis with Pennsylvania. They play.
Margaret
What's
Ann.
that?
Margaret Ann, not Amy. Margaret
Oh,
Ann.
sorry.
That's Gavin's bride.
Oh, my bad.
Mrs. K.
Then I'm in 10th with the Czech Republic. They have no runs scored, one loss. They play tomorrow against Japan. That's not going to go well. Japan beat the Dominican 10-1. I can only imagine what they're going to do to the Czechs.
What was that post-game talk when Japan lost 5-0 the very first game to Curacao? Like, what do you think their coaches said to those boys? Because I would have hate to be in that locker room.
Oh, but I mean, they're probably talking about like seppuku, like when you drive the sword, the death of the samurai.
The word honor definitely came up.
Oh yeah. Hey, but they responded. They kicked the crap out of the Dominican. And then in the basement, which is it's not set yet. It's not set yet. Czechs could still lose and have no runs scored. But in the basement right now, we have Kaylee with California. They are eliminated, lost 2 games, but they have 2 runs scored. And then Chris Cal down under with the Aussies are also eliminated and have 1 run scored.
It is absolutely amazing that California went 2 in a barbecue in the League World Series. That's like almost unheard of.
That's very shocking.
Yeah, if I would have drawn California in the wheel, I would have been very high on that pick.
Some other storylines. You watched the Alabama team at all from Phoenix City?
Yes, I watched them play their first game against Washington, where I saw. Is her last name Rasmus? Is that
it's Rasmus. Colby Rasmus's niece.
Yeah, I watched her throw. So I did watch their first game, and then I didn't see their second game when I guess that's when they routed California. Was that their second game?
They were
in the losers.
Yes, second game. They mercied them in 4 innings, 12-2.
It's a well-coached team, obviously. She's very good, and
she set the record. She took it from Monet Davis, most strikeouts by a female.
I always thought Monet was a little overrated at the time. I feel like, but I also think the game's evolved a little bit. But that girl's legit. Rasmus.
Well, I think like there's usually like 1 to 2 girls that play in the tournament each year. But Monet was the first, like, or at least to my knowledge, first pitcher.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that was groundbreaking. But
that was like 12 years ago too, I think.
2014.
So I think that's right.
Yeah,
maybe even earlier. Actually, I want to look this up now. I'm curious.
Put money on 2014.
2014.
Got a feeling, Dan.
Okay, let's see. We were right. 2014 Little League World Series.
There we go.
First girl to earn a win and to throw a shutout in the Little League World Series.
Maybe she was not overrated. I stand corrected. She performed very well.
And she's also playing in the Women's Professional Baseball League that we talked about last week. She is on the Los Angeles Queens.
Check them out live on that channel. Is ESPN or Fox picked them up? Someone picked them up.
ESPN.
I hear it on the radio. Is ESPN? Yeah, I hear it on the radio like every day.
This is a good segue into other women's professional sports. So more on the WNBA. Braxton, what do you got on the most recent controversy in the WNBA? This is now back-to-back weeks that Woody Lou Sports. Maybe we're a WNBA podcast now.
Maybe we are a WNBA podcast. And as a father of girls, who I'm all in on women's sports, but the antics have gotten just out of control. Even more so since the last time we talked about this. This time last week, 2 new things have came out that take attention away from the play.
Mm-hmm.
One not being the player's inherent fault, and that was the inanimate object that was thrown onto the court.
The phallic object.
We talked about this last season on an episode of Daily Sports and You, and the green object has made a reappearance. And
the one-eyed monster has reared its ugly head again.
And naturally, it was in a game featuring Angel Reese, and her reaction, her over-the-top reaction, added memes to come from it, and her dialogue that lip readers were able to pick up on. And what I will say, on a serious note, because we are a serious sports entity, as we are pending our application to be Western Kentucky Hilltopper Press. It's not cool. Like, it's overplayed for like the bros on Twitter and whatnot. It was funny the first time, ha ha. If you want to say it was funny, it really wasn't. And now it's overplayed and it's disrespectful. However, I took a victimology class in college, so like they are victims in this sense. But the antics that continue to happen around the game, press conferences, interviews, etc., I believe are fueling to this actions objectively, and that was highlighted in the interview this week when the I don't remember her name, but the player went on a tirade about her reacting to the object being thrown on the court and describing it as homosexual and pretty much use homosexual slurs to describe the act, which again is just a double-edged sword because you're kind of attacking one thing while trying to attack another, and it just causes further divide in the league and in the public eye. So it's things aren't going well.
Yeah, that was Chicago Sky Guard, Natasha Cloud, who I believe you're talking about, that made those comments in the post game. Yeah, it's at this point, like you said, like it's tired. Like these are all copycats. And it's not funny. It's a player safety issue. This is my immature. I think like the first time it happened, like it was kind of funny. It was kind of funny, but it's not funny. It's immature. Especially now, like it's like getting a new stick, like a shtick or a bit, and do something that like isn't like player safety. And I think, and this is interesting too. So the comments have been that it's misogynistic. Do you think, like, if this were the NBA, like if there were phallic objects being thrown on the court at an NBA game, would we even be talking about this?
No, because just male reactions are just inherently different to that kind of stuff. I think the reaction would have been potentially, we're talking hypothetically, like I believed, depending on the situation, especially if it's a nothing game, not like the playoffs or anything, the players would have either been annoyed, would have laughed. It would have been just a pretty, like, depending on the attitude of the player at the time, probably based on their performance in that game, their team's performance, it would have been something that they laughed off and continued on. But they just know that that's going to get a reaction out of the women players, and it's inappropriate, and it is kind of, it's demeaning, because it is taking away the fact that they are playing professional basketball. But no, I don't think it would cause the same reaction. But again, what would the post-game reaction be from those male players? Like, I'm not sure it would even be more than a 5-second clip or being discussed after the game if it was like a, just trash time.
Yeah, I'd be willing to wager that most of the NBA players, like if that were to happen in the post game, would not be able to keep a straight face. Like, do you remember? Like, I think it was in Buffalo. New England was playing Buffalo, and there was another phallic object thrown onto the field, and I think Gronk was asked about it. And of course, Gronk is probably the most immature professional athlete that there is, and he couldn't get a word out.
No, I mean, the guys just see that stuff differently than women do, and in a league that's trying to get its feet off the ground and be mutually respected the same way as the NBA, naturally, the reaction you're going to cause by doing something like that.
Yeah. So my next question, though, staying on WNBA, Braxton, all this controversy, that's going on. I mean, this is kind of a repeat from last season, but now we have everything with Sophie Cunningham and the comments about transgendered athletes and men that identify as transgendered declaring themselves for the draft. And you said it, and I agree that it's everything that we're not focusing on the game of basketball in the WNBA. And by all accounts, I mean, it's a good product. Like these women, they can play. but is the controversy, is that a sign that the league has finally become mainstream? Do you consider the WNBA mainstream, Braxton?
All press is good press. And the best press that the WNBA could use right now that I believe would actually catapult it to potential new heights is the firing and hiring of a commissioner that's competent. Because one thing that you'll see from, and here's the unfortunate thing, just to call it what it is. Sports have essentially now became partisan.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, sports should never be partisan, but now at least mainstream opinion of sport storylines have become partisan. You see it on ESPN when you listen to their radio shows. You see it everywhere. But the one thing that crosses party lines on this WNBA issue is the fact that both sides agree the commissioner is inept and needs to be replaced. And I believe if you had a strong commissioner who kind of wrangled all the owners, the coaches, general managers, players under one message, it could drive them in a very positive direction that could see it to where, I mean, these games are getting a ton of traction, but now maybe you are partnered with a very large audience on your ESPN game nights and get a little better time slots. They play random times, dude. They play at like 4 o'clock on like a Wednesday. Like, it's just random times. Like maybe you could see it catapult into something even larger.
Yeah, they're on like the CW, and I know ESPN now has their like Sundays are for women's sports. But I mean, I think that the fact that we're talking about the WNBA in the summer, like we said, the dog days of summer, and that they're relevant. I think the WNBA is mainstream. To answer my own question.
And here's the thing, like, you know, if I had 3 boys, probably not, but with having 3 girls, like I would 100% pay the money to go to an Indiana Fever game.
Oh yeah.
So, and you know, without Caitlin Clark-Cunningham and all the attention, positive or negative, that's getting, I probably still wouldn't. But just kind of given the aura around going to a Fever game now, with like you don't know what's going to happen, has added some juice to it.
Yeah. And they should, I think the WNBA should be leaning in to the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark rivalry. I've said this before on the show, like that's their equivalent of like Magic Bird. And
that's Bird and Magic.
They should absolutely be leaning into it. And then did you see, it's a great like meme gif of Angel Reese missing like a game-winning shot, and then the I'm sorry, Miss Patsy, the shit-eating grin on Caitlin Clark's face.
I think there's a genuine disdain there. And I'll tell you this, I don't know if it got released yet, but I did see an advertisement for it where they followed Iowa, I think it was Iowa, South Carolina, LSU, and another UConn maybe, through that Caitlin Clark's championship run her senior year and all the drama between her and Angel Reese. Like, I would watch that just because of the drama between them alone. And it's funny, and you can't really explain it because the difference is Magic and Bird were both top of their game, and they were at the top of their game on 2 of the largest marketed teams in the NBA. Angel Reese is not in the same stratosphere as far as talent as Caitlin Clark, but that animosity from college leaking into the WNBA does draw attention.
But then, I mean, she brings the talk, like we've talked about this, like off the court, like by all accounts, like Angel Reese, like her social media following, like she is, I mean, obviously it's like because of basketball, but I think that she's probably like a bigger star without basketball.
Did you see that she's potentially a junior? Did you see that going around on social media?
What do you mean?
Apparently, this is, you know, off the cuff. I saw it on Twitter. Apparently, her mother's name is Angel Reese. So there was a debate: is there like an underground of girls being juniors from their mom? Because it's like that's
yeah. I feel like that happens, but it's not like they don't go by like junior or like deuce.
No deuces.
No, I don't. That'd be funny. I don't know of any women that go by deuce.
Fair enough.
Anything else on the WNBA?
No. I mean, I do not know the conference breakdown. I know that Caitlin's in Indianapolis and Angel's in Atlanta. I don't know if they're both Eastern Conference, but if they are both Eastern Conference or if one's West, however they break it down, seeing them in the WNBA championship or like the Eastern Conference Finals equivalent would be pretty electric stuff.
I'm pretty sure, I'll check right now. I'm pretty sure they're both in they're both in the Eastern Conference, but it was more fun when Angel Reese was on the Chicago Sky, because I'm pretty sure they're Eastern too. Never mind. I thought that they could have potentially met in the NBA championship, like Bird and Magic, but the proximity of Chicago and Indiana, I think those are big rivals in the WNBA.
Fair enough.
So not the best transition, Braxton, but starting again, I know you don't like the word segment, so I'm not going to call it a segment, but moving into a new recurring ticker topic on Woody Lou Sports and You. Now that you are back in the Commonwealth of Kentucky and we're both Commonwealth boys, talking Commonwealth headlines. So to kick off Commonwealth headlines, this is by request of producer Kaylee. I'm going to talk about probably the biggest court case going on, arguably in the nation, but definitely dominating local headlines in Massachusetts, and that is the Lindsay Clancy trial. Braxton, are you familiar with the Lindsay Clancy trial?
I am more familiar than I wish I was with the Lindsay Clancy trial.
Okay, so why don't you start just by what your familiarity is and what you were tracking from that case, and then I'm going to fill in some interesting details. Again, not a legal podcast, that disclaimer, but as a barred attorney, hopefully I can provide some interesting insights from my vantage point on the case.
So let me start off with my introduction to this case was a tweet that said Patrick Clancy makes statement or something about Patrick Clancy comments on wife post her murdering their children. And I panicked because I went to college with someone named Patrick Clancy who is also married. And so for a second there, I was like, this might be close to home.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, not the same Patrick Clancy. But anyway, my understanding of the Patrick Clancy, Lindsay Clancy, and if Kaylee's watching right now, I just know, I can't see the comments, just for people at home to know. So if Dan doesn't comment on your comment, it's his fault, not mine. So I know Kaylee's warming up her thumbs right now. My understanding is Patrick and Lindsay were divorced, or no, I don't know when they got divorced. They got divorced after this or whatever it was. But I know he is now remarried.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that Lindsay asked Patrick, I believe, to go get dinner for the kids and her. He leaves to go get dinner for her and the kids. He returns and allegedly finds the 3 children murdered, I believe, with a workout band, and she had jumped out of their second-story window and was paralyzed from the waist down. He calls 911, and then that's pretty much the gist for me.
Yeah. No, you have the gist of it, Braxton. So this is Lindsay Clancy and Patrick Clancy. He divorced her after this, so they were very much married on January 24th, 2023. And that is the day that Lindsay Clancy, who is then 32 years old, mother of 3. So I definitely have to mention the victims here, the 3 children, Cora, age 5, Dawson, age 3, and Callan Clancy, aged 8 months. She sent Patrick out to go get takeout food, and while he was gone, she strangled them to death with exercise bands in the basement, and then after doing that, attempted to commit suicide by jumping from the home's second story. She survived and suffered severe spinal injuries, and she's paralyzed from the waist down. So throughout the trial, you'll see her in a wheelchair. Is that so?
Well, added context to my understanding is I do know that there is a strong, I don't know if it's a cult or how big of a following it is, but there is a voice which has came out to support Lindsay at the trial, saying that either she did not do it and Patrick did it, or that given her, I don't know if that's their stance officially, or that given her psychosis, she cannot be held liable for any of it.
Yeah.
And there's also been a GoFundMe that's raised, I believe, upwards of $1 million.
Yeah.
In support
So
of Lindsay.
I'll clarify that. So yes, so this has garnered a lot of attention, and there has been a large presence outside the courthouse in support of Lindsay Clancy. And I think that there's an important thing to note is that this trial, it is as much a trial, not just of Lindsay Clancy's criminal culpability in committing these homicides, these horrific acts and offenses, but also a trial of the healthcare system and postpartum care and treatment for mothers, especially their mental health. And where that gets into is that, and so no, and what's interesting is I know there's been evidence that's been presented throughout the trial that potentially Patrick Clancy committed the murders. I know there was like forensic evidence of like DNA. From my vantage point, that's a complete red herring. Like no one disputes that Lindsay Clancy killed her children. She admits to it. The prosecution is saying it. Patrick Clancy says it. So that's not in dispute. She admits to the killing. What this trial is whether she could appreciate the wrongfulness of her conduct at the time that she committed the homicides. And what defense is arguing is that she was suffering from bipolar disorder as well as postpartum psychosis, and she was hearing a male voice that was basically telling her to do this. And because of the medications that she received and how much dosages she had, that all contributed to her declining mental state and that psychosis. So that's what the defense is arguing, whereas prosecutors are saying that no, she did not have psychosis and that she planned this, and there was a plan for this, and that she should be held criminally responsible and convicted of first-degree murder. You have any questions about, does that make sense, Braxton?
Does make sense. Where I guess I'm confused is, I don't know if you've seen it, you can fill me in. That's my understanding of everything you just presented. Mm-hmm. Where is the idea that there's any viable evidence or information out there that could suggest that Patrick did do this, which has glamored such a large following of folks to come out and pretty much say that he undoubtedly did commit the murders and she's innocent fully?
Yeah, so there's been evidence that like on at least one of the exercise bans in question, like Lindsay Clancy, none of Lindsay Clancy's DNA was on it. It was just Patrick and the victim children's DNA. There's also been evidence of her taking off her Apple Watch like before jumping out of the second story of their home. So there's doubt that's been raised by some of this evidence that she committed the murders. And I think that the popular theory of the supporters of Lindsay Clancy is that actually Patrick did this and he orchestrated the whole thing to, basically start a new life. But sure, like, some of the forensic evidence says that, but I don't think defense is arguing this. And as far as like Patrick like remarrying, like I wouldn't read too much into that, but these supporters are.
Now, given my, I guess you could say, current profession and my internship in college and college education experience, I should know this answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Regardless of all of that, for this trial specifically, Patrick Clancy is not on the stand, and essentially she would have to be proven innocent of any and all wrongdoing, and then charges have to be pressed against Patrick, and a new trial would begin against him if it was to come out that she was innocent and they had enough evidence to pin against Patrick. Or can he be, or could it kind of stem from this trial explicitly, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't think that's going to happen at all.
Okay.
He's testified for the prosecution. He was actually the first witness put on by the Commonwealth, by Plymouth County District Attorney. So the fact that I mean, there's been a whole investigation into this. I mean, it happened in 2023. The case started in this past July. So no, Patrick Clancy is not being put on trial for this. The case has been evaluated. Lindsay Clancy has admitted to it. I yeah, there's like I don't know, internet sleuths or whatever. It's making headlines, and I think it's popular like on the social medias and the feeds. But I would not put much stock into Patrick Clancy murdered the children.
Have you seen the online conversation that um, they find it insane? No, I don't think insane is probably not a good word. They find it crazy that if Lindsay Clancy was in actual psychosis and was like kind of having an out of body
Mhm.
an out of body experience when she committed these murders, would her reactions not be more emotional in court going over people testifying, and that people are saying that her reactions show that she's essentially a cold-blooded killer because she is just sitting there with really no remorse during the majority of the trial? I know there were some parts of the trial I believe she had to step out or be taken out, but overall she's had some smug responses. Does the judge take that into consideration at all when it comes to sentencing, or is that inadmissible essentially?
No, I mean, I don't think so. Like the judge definitely will not, and they should not, take in I guess, the demeanor of the accused or defendant during the course of the trial. I'm sure the jury is looking at her and paying attention to her reactions. That's definitely something that the jury is doing. Again, I wouldn't put like too much stock into that. As far as like the demeanor of a defendant, I think like there are cases where like clearly there is like no remorse, but I think for her, I mean, she's just trying to get through the court case. And as far as like what her demeanor is, like I mean, she looks to me, and again, I don't know this, but my suspicion is that I mean, she's probably medicated just for like her paralysis, but it's
Right.
probably on like other like stabilizing medications as well. Like she comes across to someone as me that is she's there, she's with it. Otherwise the trial wouldn't be going on, but is also kind of like what's the right word for this? Like disassociated a little.
So if Judge Woodhouse was presiding, based on the information that's been presented thus far, where do you stand on the if now obviously the jury was going to make the call, but where are you kind of at if you were the sole juror and prosecutor on this?
Yeah, I'm gonna cop out right now, because it's what this is coming down to a battle of the experts, and that is what the jury is wrestling with right now. So, defense has presented experts that have reviewed her medical records, her psychiatric notes, and they're testifying that she did suffer from bipolar disorder and postpartum psychosis. One of those doctors, he also testified in the Andrea Yates case, a similar case where Andrea Yates was found not criminally responsible. The insanity defense, like the layman's term, so the similar defense. And then the prosecutor experts are saying that no, there was no psychosis. She could appreciate the wrongfulness of what she was doing. To me, I think what's persuasive is, and I'm not sure that the prosecution has painted this very clearly, and maybe they will. We're getting to closing arguments this week, so both sides have rested. We are in rebuttal right now, but closing arguments should happen earlier this week. Is and it's hard. Like I don't know. Like what else explains, a seemingly, happy, normal family mother of 3 under the age of 5 killing all 3 of her children? Like, what was the motive? What was the reason why? If not for having, like, a mental disease disorder that she could not appreciate what she was doing.
For sure. I mean, it's a situation. It's what was that guy's name out in Colorado? Chris, was it Weber or something? The Chris guy who murdered his daughters and
Oh, this was
wife.
American Nightmare?
Yeah, it's like, as a father of kids, girls specifically, like it's unfathomable. You can't even imagine. I can't even imagine a world where that, like, it's just
Yeah.
it's ludicrous. So
Well, in that case, if I remember correctly, like, he had a girlfriend, like,
that was so
affair.
he wanted to start a new family.
Yeah.
But also, like, if it put me in that situation, if I was just like, I'm out on my wife and I'm out on my fatherly responsibilities. I want to go be with this new thing. Like, I would much rather go through the darkness of divorce and all of that. Like, it couldn't even cross my mind that would be a recourse. So, it is. Yeah, I think the conscious mind has to jump to, like, obviously something had to be mentally wired for it to get to this point inherently.
And then a piece of this trial that I think is very interesting, and I think a lot of people, like, across the nation who are just following it on social media are not appreciating the history of these types of cases in this same county, in Plymouth County, Massachusetts. And I think a lot of people are asking, and I am curious. I'm going to go to the chat right now and see if we're getting any commentary. Oh, we are. Okay, so I'm going to pause right now. We got producer Kaylee. I think it's just really hard to believe that a woman could do that to her children. Postpartum psychosis is rare, but very real. Postpartum care and treatment is so poor. And okay, yeah, I was large delay in the comments. Yeah, that's on me, producer Kaylee. I apologize. And yeah, she's saying some of the other evidence that's leaning towards Patrick Clancy potentially is the blood down the side of the house, as if she were pushed and didn't jump. And then when they've talked about the children, she's lost it in trial. Then we got Gavin. She looks cold-blooded, and I don't know anything about it besides the few TikTok clips that I've seen. And Kaylee's saying Patrick was cheating on her with said new wife. So there is that potential motive.
Potential motive and circumstantial stuff's always going to come out in discovery, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's why a lot of cases get pleaded out, because, like, discovery is a dirty thing to a lot of folks, because then situations can seem more than they actually are. I don't know. I think I'm fairly convinced that she did it. And one thing I have to ask, I don't know if you can answer this, Dan, because you are an attorney, but you're not this type of attorney. Say you were her defense, right?
Yep.
I don't know if this is something that attorneys do, or they're supposed to do, or they're not supposed to do it. They actually do it. Like, is there any coaching going on about, like, hey, Lindsay, my client, like, I need you to be very conscious of your demeanor.
Oh, yeah.
Like, maybe, like, how emotional you should be at this point and how emotional you shouldn't be at this point. Is that going on?
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely going on. That's a big part of defense work, is, talking to your client and, helping them understand, like, how they're perceived by the fact finder, the jury. For instance, there was a case, and I'm blanking on the name of him, but it was a prep school in New Hampshire, and it was a senior who was accused of both rape, so without consent, as well as statutory rape. So having intercourse with a underage girl. I think she was a freshman, and you look at like photographs of him, and I mean, kind of like very like that, New England, East Coast prep, like frat bro, like, bleached hair, wearing like a lacrosse penny. So a stereotype of, if you will, like white upper class privilege. But then you see him in court, and he has, brown hair, he's wearing glasses, he's in a suit, comes across like more sympathetic. And that was very much curated by his defense team. Like, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, it's like one of those. I mean, I get it for sure. I just didn't know because in my head, some of her reactions that, like Gavin said, is kind of making its rounds on TikTok. So I would imagine her defense is like, "Hey, Lindsay, like when this is happening, probably have this reaction versus
Mhm.
this reaction."
Yeah.
Blunt. Your life's kind of on the line
Yeah.
here.
And another comment, Miss Patsy, is I wonder if she was offered a plea deal. So this is what I was getting to, and I think it's very, very important to understand. This was a 2022 case, and this was Commonwealth versus Latarsha Sanders. And Latarsha Sanders was convicted of first-degree murder of her 8 and 5-year-old sons in Brockton, Massachusetts, and that was in 2018. So it's important that Brockton and Duxbury, so Duxbury is the town where Lindsay Clancy and Patrick Clancy and their 3 children lived. They are in the same county. They're in Plymouth County. So same county, same prosecutor, and also the same judge, William Sullivan. And I'll get to that in a second. But a lot of people, I know on social media, are asking, well, why was she charged with first degree murder? Like, why not, like, a manslaughter charge or something else like that balances the understanding of, yes, a horrific crime with 3, innocent young victims, with a mother, with documented, extensive documented mental health issues. And again, this is the Commonwealth has never spoken about this, and this is just my speculation, but I also think the speculation of a lot of journalists too, in the New England area, is that the Commonwealth, because they sought first degree murder charges and convicted Latarsha Sanders, who was a black woman, a single black mother, uh, low income in Brockton, Massachusetts, that just because of the similar nature of the facts, that they had to pursue the same charges against Lindsay Clancy. Now, there are differences between the 2 cases. Ultimately, basically arguing the same thing on defense, that both mothers were suffering from mental diseases, and they could not appreciate the wrongfulness of their actions. Now, Latarsha Sanders, she was convicted, so she's in prison right now. However, in the middle of the Lindsay Clancy trial on August 6th, 2026, the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts, the highest level of appeals court in the state, they actually came down with a ruling, an opinion on Latarsha Sanders' appeal, and they actually ordered a new trial. And that's because the judge, that's Judge William Sullivan, the judge in Lindsay Clancy's case as well, he improperly suppressed and prevented the jury from hearing important psychiatric records. So it's interesting that holding came out in the middle of the Lindsay Clancy case. Now, there are big differences because most of Lindsay Clancy's psychiatric records, they're before the murders happened. So she had been seeking treatment. We've heard the testimony about all the different medications she was on, and that's what's an argument right now. Whereas Latarsha Sanders, that medical evidence, that was after she was incarcerated and was arrested for the crime of the death of her 2 boys. And the judge said that the psychiatric notes that were taken after they were not probative of her mental state at the time. And basically, the Supreme Judicial Court said, no, they are relevant, they are probative, and the jury should have heard them. So I'm going to stop quickly there because I just dropped a lot of knowledge and a lot of information. What do you think about that, Braxton?
Probative is a word I've never heard before. And it all makes sense, right? It all wraps together when you have that history. It's a lot of nuance, and most of the world in every asset or facet is nuanced. And when you have your keyboard warriors who do not appreciate or acknowledge nuance and see something that is very black and white, however they live in the gray and pull their own conclusions, is how you get this. Clearly, this judge has some history with similar case, and when you add in the race factor, the socioeconomic factor, the punishment factor for that, and then the pending for this, there's a lot of nuance involved. And that's kind of how you get to these points. And it's unfortunate because what I'm hearing is an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and now a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and an 8-month-old are all dead. Presumably by a mother's hand, psychosis involved or not. Those 5 children that you just discussed are all deceased, and they had a life yet to live. So it's very sad. And do you have anything else on this? Because I do have a transition to my Commonwealth case.
No, I don't. But I do appreciate you bringing it back to, as we talk about these cases and we talk about Lindsay Clancy and LaTarsha Sanders, we should not lose sight of the 5 victims, young children, in these cases. And like you said, I think it's impossible not to factor in race and socioeconomics in these 2 cases, and why we're here right now with both LaTarsha Sanders and Lindsay Clancy.
And one thing I'm big on, being from where I'm from in Kentucky, race is important. However, what you'll see most oftentimes is the socioeconomic piece is almost more of a dividing line, if you will, as far as treatment goes. And that leads us to my heartwarming story from the Commonwealth of Kentucky for this week that I wanted to shed light on, in tune with, and hopefully next week we find more positive stories. But I wanted to stay on the same tune as Dan, because I knew he was going to present the Patrick and Lindsay. The Lindsay case with Patrick's association is the Lindsay Snelling story. The University of Kentucky student stunt team member who pleaded guilty this week to manslaughter for killing her baby.
I am familiar with this one.
That she delivered in her dorm room. Seemingly, she kept the pregnancy secret, even though a lot of her close friends and acquaintances had suspicion that she was pregnant. When she pleaded guilty, she said that when the judge asked her how she killed her child, she said, simply, I deprived him of air. And one thing that's really concerning about this, and I have a spider, or I don't know if I have a spider or tick on my thumb. Excuse me.
Yeah, Braxton, get that figured out. Don't get big.
Sorry, but she says I deprived him of oxygen, and that she admitted that the baby was born alive, and that she deprived him of oxygen ultimately. But she also, talked about how she wasn't sure if he was breathing or not when he was born, and that she passed out on top of the child, and when she awoke, found him turning blue. And in an effort to conceal the evidence of the birth, put it in the trash bag with the paper towels. And the skeptic in me, right? And as someone who continuously daily tries to do this walk with the Lord and stuff like that, right? And walking with God versus yourself, there's a lot of truth that kind of comes out in that. And what I mean by that is you can lie to yourself, and when you lie to yourself enough, maybe when you portray it out, it comes out as truth. But she discussed how I deprived him of oxygen, but I passed out because I gave birth, which may be true. How long did you pass out? I don't know. But then when you woke up, oh, well, he was kind of turning blue. So I'm almost skeptical to the point where I believe that might be something that she's telling herself to make it not seem, make an excuse to herself. And the whole thing is absolutely crazy. Again, having kids and then being a father of girls. If my college age, and it almost makes me sad because I'd like to think if one of my girls became pregnant while in college, say, I don't know what year she was at school when this happened. I don't know if she was a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Regardless, if one of my girls found themselves pregnant outside of marriage between their freshman and senior year of college, I would really like to think that they would just say, "Hey, Dad, this happened. This is the new reality," and that me and Kaylee would figure out a solution. Definitely a tick, Dan. I'm at war with this tick.
Your producer Kaylee is saying that there are tweezers in the kitchen.
Well, he hasn't bitten into me yet, Dan, but he keeps jumping from my hand to my leg, and I've lost contact.
This is great podcast content.
This is not good. This will be a reel. Intertwined with a terrible story, I might add. But I would hope to think that she could tell me we can figure this out, right? Like every college in America post 2020, you can get a full degree online. So it's just really upsetting. It's sad, and just like the previous case, another life lost, and it's a life lost by the baby, but it's also, especially in the immediate, a life lost by this very young girl, woman, as she looks at potentially upwards of 13 years in prison.
Yeah. And I think regardless of as far as if she fell asleep on the baby or intentionally deprived the baby of oxygen, just being in that situation, like you said, where again, I don't know what she was thinking, but to speculate that the fact that she gave birth by herself, like in her dorm room,
which is insane. As someone who's seen 3 births, like doing it, even okay, well, in the 1800s they didn't have doctors, but typically you weren't alone.
Yeah,
you had somebody. The idea that you were in your dorm room doing that, to me, I can't wrap my brain around.
Yeah, she felt enough pressure or shame where she felt she had to hide it, and it's, in the year 2026, it's there are at the fire department, I know producer Kaylee mentioned that in the chat, that they have the safe boxes where there's no questions asked if you drop a baby off there. And again, cannot ever put myself in the shoes of giving up a child, and I can't imagine that, but clearly that's a better alternative to what happened in this case.
Yeah, and I just read the headline about she finally pleaded guilty this week, but I believe whenever it was at trial, or when they were going through it, one of the roommates testified that they saw it. I think that's how it kind of came out. It's the roommates came across it, which just thinking about those those girls, what that has to be like as future mothers of children of their own, that can weigh very heavy. So it's clearly not a victimless crime to the child who lost its life, but there's also several other impacts from this singular action.
Just an overall sad story that, at least in my mind, it never should have happened. There's so many alternatives.
But with all that negativity, I am so happy to be back in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. Today, Kaylee and I, we went to a new church in Louisville, and then followed that up to a trip to a distillery where we met with my buddy Hayden and his wife and their 2 sons, and we had a big old time eating food, and they had a big grass area, and the kids got to run around, and the weather was perfect. We went to Hibachi. Hibachi last night.
Sounds good.
And when we went to Hibachi last night, there was this guy who was there by himself. He's probably about our age. And he was sitting next to Ronnie Bell and was super nice. And, he runs a gutter business, and when he left, like he told me his name and said look him up on Facebook. We're Facebook friends now.
Okay.
So, just being around like my people has been such a blessing, and I am so thankful for the opportunity to be here for the next 2 to 3 years. And I know given your path, whenever you end up back in Massachusetts, you'll feel the same jubilation.
Yeah. But we do have one final topic. I know we're over the hour mark, but this is something we've been wanting to do for a while. And this is a game. I think this is a good way to close out on a high note and a happier note, is a game of this or that.
Segment that I contributed to and gave some very
you
good.
You did. No, this is, yes. So you don't know what I'm going to ask, but you did give a list, and I got to pick the ones.
A list. So to the listeners, I gave a list to Dan that our shadow producer provided. I didn't read them. I just copied and pasted them, sent them to Dan, and said I wanted Dan to pick them so that I could react live on air, and Woody can as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So first, this or that, Braxton.
Let's hear it.
Have your entire career defined by one transcendent moment or by consistent excellence with no single signature achievement.
I want one moment, one shining moment, if you will.
Yes.
I think, I'm just going to pick random sports for each of these, because these are all sports related. So let's say I'm a basketball player, and let's say I'm a college basketball player. I'm not an NBA guy. That one, 3-pointer as time's expiring down to win a national championship for my college would mean more to me than averaging 23 points for 4 years at an ACC school, but never making it past a round of 32. Easy answer.
Yeah, I'm with you there too, and I think of like these are Boston references, but I think of Mike Eruzione, the captain of the 1980 USA Olympic hockey team, and scoring in the game against the Soviets to put them ahead, and he's running on the ice, like his sticks up in the air. That's his signature moment. And I think he went on to play in the NHL, but really like nothing like of significance in his professional hockey career. But
right.
he's an American legend. Like everyone knows who Mike Eruzione is. And then another example is Dave Roberts in stealing second base in the 2004 ALCS. Absolute legend in reversing the curse for Boston. And then I think in the shadow producers making of this or that, on the flip side of that, it's got to be Mike Trout, right?
Yes.
Like consistent excellence with no signature achievement. He's got MVPs, but like no championships.
Well, Mike Trout, he'll be a Hall of Famer one day, and it's just going to be hey, this guy was consistently good.
Yeah.
There will be no 3-time World Series champion, 2-time World Series MVP.
Yeah. Who do you think he like compares to? Like, I think probably the best comparison is Griffey.
I feel like King Griffey's even different though, because King Griffey has more aura just from essentially, when he started out in Seattle, he played with his dad. So his come up was huge. And, his time in Cincinnati is what it is. Cincinnati was never great. But maybe just the time of the culture when King Griffey was good makes him a little different than Mike Trout. And the thing about Mike Trout, and no offense to Anaheim, but the Angels in the years that Mike Trout's been a part of it, there's absolutely nothing to be excited about. They get Shohei Ohtani, and they had an opportunity to really grow off that, and clearly they lose him to the Dodgers. So Mike Trout really, when you look at it, is going to have a pretty amazing career that's insignificant into the casual viewer's eyes.
But he's like, when you even watch the League World Series, like all of these kids love Mike Trout.
Yeah,
he's like the favorite player, the player they want to meet. And I think it's interesting because I mean if you talk about like a span, and I forget like how many years, but like the consecutive MVPs, like his WAR, probably the best like span in baseball history.
But that war is a little inflated based on the team he's playing for.
Yeah, that's also fair. I think Griffey's a pretty good comparison, like just pure like I guess career wise, but in that time, like post strike, 94 strike, like Griffey was the face of baseball. And I don't think Trout has that same aura, like he said.
Yeah, Mike Trout's he's an interesting cat. Um, he,
I just don't
he's
understand how, like, when they had Shohei, how could they not make the playoffs?
I don't know, but Mike Trout is the epitome of like front of the Wheaties box.
Yeah. Okay. Second, this or that, Braxton. Retire at your peak or keep going until the decline is obvious and undeniable.
That's a really hard one because what my mind goes to first off the bat is to say retire at my peak. But okay, hey, Andrew Luck did that, and the reaction was very mixed. Um, Mixed in the point of what could have been, what should have been, and almost selfish in nature to a degree, even though to him it was clearly not selfish. It was the best decision for himself and his family, family more so than himself. Um, but do you want to open yourself up to, yeah, I don't know why my mind goes to this guy, damn it. Pablo Sandoval comes to my mind. Like, what if the
Like the
Panda?
Giants' third baseman.
What if he retired as a Giants third baseman and not the journeyman that randomly played 40 games for the Braves? You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's my point.
Yeah.
Is like what I'm gonna go with because I respect it is retire once like I'm just washed up, so they can at least say, hey, that dude he just loved the game.
Yeah, like I'm on the same page as that, where it's like when you are no longer performing at like the minimum level necessary for a professional athlete. Because I don't blame a lot of these guys. Like, sure, they're not like at their superstar level and they're waning on the back nine of their career, but still contributing. It's a paycheck. I'm never gonna knock anyone, for going after the green. It's a good paycheck. They probably love the game. So I'll go with keep going until you are no longer like employable.
Yeah. Well, like, and the thing is, if you're good enough to where you can play to that point, like, you're going to get a proper send off. Like, they're not going to disrespect. No club's going to disrespect you. At a minimum, if the first 10 years of your career was at, let's just say the Mariners, and then you became a journeyman for another 8 years, and your last team you played for is the Reds, like, the Mariners, in theory, would still sign you to a one-day contract and retire you appropriately, and you'd still get the swan song that you deserve.
Now, follow-up question. What are your thoughts on the players that like announce that this year is their last year and they have like the send off like tour, if you will? And I think you can tell from my like tone, my thoughts on these.
I think the send-off tour has to be reserved for a very finite amount of players. You have to be the Derek Jeter, LeBron James, if he stayed his whole career in Cleveland. Maybe not, but like I think there's like a fine line. I think that also, I think an impact for me of the farewell tour is like, were you a journeyman? Because if you played 17 years for the Yankees and like you've been the New York Yankees shortstop for 17 years, like, hey, I can see how your last series against the Orioles, they might present you with something.
So I don't like it. I think it's corny. I would rather a guy just at the end of the year, he says, "Hey, I'm hanging it up," and kind of just rides off into the sunset. But I think I know where these are coming from, and I think it's largely economics driven, where
Good for the club.
it's good for the club. It's good for the visitors too. I actually bet the visitor teams like it even more because it's going to drive up. Like, doesn't matter what place, whatever team is in. Like when Mariano Rivera comes for his last game at, I don't know, Petco Park. Actually, who's a terrible team right now? Mariners aren't good. So whatever Safeco is called now, Mariano's last game at Safeco, you're probably going to sell that out. So the Mariners love that. So
Right.
I get it from an economic standpoint, but I would rather, behind closed doors, like just say, hey, this is my final year, like for planning purposes. And then at the end of the year, make a public announcement that you're retiring. That's how I would do it.
I think I'd probably be the, hey, this is my last year guy.
You would want Tor?
I'd want the flowers.
You're Braxton Ball.
Yeah, I'd want the flowers.
Never lost.
Never lost. You got one more for me?
No, those are the two I had. I think that's a good way to end it. We're almost at the hour 20 mark. Good episode. Episode 42. Woody Lou Sports and You. Do you have any final thoughts, Braxton, before we close out?
It was a good episode, and I'm really happy that you were allotted the opportunity to show us just how intelligent you are using words that I've never heard of in a legal sense. So, subtle, humble brag there, Dan. I'm happy for you that you got the opportunity to do that. And I think you are the best attorney that I know. So I'm thankful for you.
So you're saying that Commonwealth Headlines is just an opportunity for me to flex?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be very interested to see if your Commonwealth headline next week is another court case, or if it's like, mine's gonna be like, hey, there's a really significant measles outbreak going on in Kentucky.
Again, disclaimer: we are not a legal podcast. Not a legal podcast. And with that, to our award-winning listeners, I hope you all have a great week. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and download. Everyone, from Braxton and I, have a great week.
Cheers.